Hello, viewers. This is The Voice of Meaning, and I'm Ulrich. And today's video number 3, will be an interview with Neal Martin, who is my partner in this project. And we're actually on the learning curve of how to do this. So, and that's part of it. It speaks a lot to our sense of what's meaningful in our lives. So, Neal, introduce yourself a little bit, and let's see where your story goes.
Hi, I'm Neal Martin. Ulrich and I are both 1950 babies, and we both live in different areas within a very remote part of the country called the Okanagan Highlands. I want to start with why. Why a new YouTube channel when there are 5 million other ones, and a lot of them deal with issues of meaning?
And that is a very good place to start.
Okay.
Why?
Why? Partially is that in my relatively long life, I've encountered a lot of people who I would love to spotlight because they have wonderful stories that we can all learn from. And partly because it appears we're in a meaning crisis. I've read that suicide rates among young people and older people have increased the last couple years by 50% or more, which to me is an indicator that there's a lot of despair, which I believe is the opposite of meaning. And if we can help one person find a little more meaning in their day, it's a victory.
So, how did you begin to think about meaning and meaning in your life? What got you started?
Good question. In 1991, that was a long time ago, I was involved in an existential crisis. I even planned my own suicide that I didn't obviously carry out, faced bankruptcy, divorce, life crashing. And I came across a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl and read it. And it gave me some hope because I realized that my situation wasn't really as bad as his. So that's what got me started on that road.
What got him started on thinking about meaning in life and how important it is?
Oddly, after reading his bio, he was a student in the early 20th century in the University of Vienna and was very troubled about the amount of student suicides. And he came to the conclusion that meaning in life is very important, and without it, everything doesn't work. And he started a counseling program for students. And his program was so successful that while he was doing that, there were no more suicides in the University of Vienna. This was right before and during World War I.
So how did this insight into meaning play out for you?
Very long, arduous journey. I think there are a lot of other factors that, self-sabotaging things that had delayed my meaning journey. The next incident involving meaning was in 2009 when 3 of my clients in my financial planning practice passed away, in 2 cases, leaving widows with teenage children. And I recognized I I needed better skills in helping them. So I contacted the Viktor Frankl Institute and started a course of study. Not that it makes me an authority on meaning, but it gave me a few tools to be able to help people. And then finally, a year and a half ago, I had my third heart attack and could have died. I feel very, very lucky to be alive, and started a period of self-introspection and recognized that, again, I was doing a lot of self-sabotaging things, doing things I shouldn't have, even though I've read all the literature on it, and continued this journey towards meaning. And meaning's not the ultimate goal. It's something that we either feel or we don't at the moment, but ought to be concerned about.
Yeah, meaning isn't suddenly the sky opens up and we hear the music. It's a day-to-day struggle. It's a interacting and engaging with life, and when we hear about other people's path, it is our hope together that it brings to awareness how meaning might be important to them. And I was thinking when you were talking about when you were at your lowest point, what did you lose meaning in your life, or was there an internal struggle going on? Can you talk about that?
Probably both. Probably both. I think the answers are complicated, and I'm just learning a lot. Give a plug for Gabor Mate, who wrote a book called The Myth of Normal, and he attributes a lot of this to childhood trauma that was unresolved, and I totally agree with him. Is that a lot of what we do that on the surface is self-destructive is trying to comfort ourselves for deep things that we haven't, that we were missing as children. And that's probably a subject for a whole other episode. But it's like learning music. My wife is a world-class musician, and I plan on posting some of her music on the YouTube channel. I particularly love her harp music. Is that you have to keep working at it. If you don't use it, you lose it, to quote a very used quote.
So really what you're saying is that creating meaning in one's life can be a struggle, and sometimes the more the struggle, the deeper the process of finding meaning, seeking meaning in life can occur.
Yes, it often can be a struggle. Frankl said that one of the ways to find meaning is to have a courageous attitude in difficult situations. And there's not a human being alive that isn't in difficult situations. So we can learn from them.
Yeah, and that was my point to the listeners, is that seeking meaning isn't a special sub area of human life. It's part of everyone's life. We're all looking for meaning in one form or another, whether we're 6 or 7 years old and we're just beginning our journey, or if we're 80, 90, and maybe 100, and having retrospect in our lives and finding meaning from that, from the past. Yeah, we'll be exploring this in a variety of different ways. What is the most important piece for you in your process, you think, that brought you to this point in finding meaning in your life?
Well, at the moment, it's trying to resolve an addiction that I need to own up to food, and studying Mate's what's called compassionate inquiry, I've come to the realization that it's an addiction that started in infancy. And of course, I don't remember when I was an infant, but I remember things that my parents told me about myself. And I compensated by eating, instead of, I embrace myself with lots of food. I have a picture somewhere of me sitting in my high chair on my first birthday with a big cake in front of me, my face all full of cake. And in a way, I almost died because I'm still that little boy. I completely attribute the heart attacks to allowing myself to be, at one time, morbidly obese and very poor eating habits. So I'm finding meaning in that struggle, and the struggle is not over. I just spent, I had reduced my weight by middle of May to where I was in high school, and I did so well. And then we were in Alaska for a couple weeks, and I gained back almost, 12 pounds in 2 weeks eating fun foods. And I felt very, very ashamed. Maybe, I'm thinking maybe I can never leave our sanctuary here in Republic, Washington. But now I need to double down and figure out a way to deal with this addiction. And I'm finding meaning in the struggle of that, because I like being alive. I enjoy my friends and my sweetheart that I live with, and interactions with people. So, and I'm 100% sure I'm not alone in this struggle. We all face our demons and our monsters, and it's, they win a lot of the time. Matter of fact, they win most of the time, I think. So I find meaning in that.
Mm-hmm. And that's hopefully one of the gifts that these videos will give, is an engagement with the people who listen to the interviews, and we'll also have more discussions as we go along about a number of things. So building a community of people that are engaged in the process of seeking meaning is one of our intentions in doing this project.
Absolutely. Yeah, and not just a community of professionals that use it in their therapies and practices. In my opinion, people who are genuine, authentic, were willing to share their struggles and ideas about that, it is a good solution.
Right. And having been a therapist for close to 50 years and also a teacher for 54 years. I find that community is really important. It's actually more important than the professional in front of you. I think sometimes going to a professional for counseling can be the easy way out, though counselors are important. I mean, what's important is to have someone to interact with, someone who will listen to what you're saying and not just give you their wise advice. So it's a mix, it's a balance, like anything in life. So in terms of winding up our conversation, what is the most important lesson from your experience that you would like to share with our audience?
Oh, there's so many of them.
Just one.
Well, the lesson I learned most recently listening to talk by Brian Johnson is that our minds sometimes give us wrong advice, because it was my mind that had me eat too many refined foods in in Alaska, telling me, oh, you can partake, it's okay. And that our bodies know better what's good for us than our heads or minds.
It's that deadly, when's that going to hurt you?
Right. And yeah, after a string of them gaining 12 pounds in 15 days, that was, I ate like I was going to the electric chair, I guess, the next day. But yeah, we often need to, our minds are very important tools, but often we need to get it out of the way. And I highly recommend taking some time away from our minds, of good sleep, and also maybe a couple times a day just sitting and meditating and not thinking about what needs to be done. And even if we think about what needs to be done, we can just let it flow past.
Yeah.
So that's my most recent lesson. We learn all the time, and I think we're all teachers to each other, and we can glean some tremendous lessons from each other, even from people we don't agree with. And that's one of the reasons for this channel. We want to interview a lot of different people who are seeking meaning and have a little bit to share.
So thank you for sharing your stories of meaning. And as a reminder to our listeners, down below, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button. That's really important. Since we're just starting out, we need to have those numbers, and we will continue to build our platform with hopefully insightful and interesting conversations, which will help those who listen to engage not only with us, but with themselves as they seek meaning in their lives.
Well, thank you, Ulrich. I'll add one more thing. I set up a Gmail account called The Voice of Meaning, all one word, at gmail.com. If anyone has any private comments, feel free to email. Ulrich and I are the only ones that have access to it, and we do not sell or commercialize any of this. And then publicly, please leave comments. We'll answer them. And this is a beginning, and we hope that many people join us in this meaning journey. So I will say good morning and thank you for listening.
And good night somewhere in the world.
Correct.